Dear listeners of the Female Guides Requested podcast, happy Wednesday. This is your host Ting Ting from Las Vegas. Today our guest is Lindsay Fixmer from Bozeman, Montana. Lindsay is an experienced Alpine, ice, and rock climbing guide who has been guiding since 2006. She is on the American Mountain Guides Association Instructor Team, develops and teaches outdoor programming at Montana State University, and also instructs at indoor facilities. Lindsay spends her winters ice guiding in Montana and Wyoming, spring and fall at various rock venues in the western U.S., and splits her summers between Bozeman and the Eastern Sierra. As an AMGA certified Alpine and rock guide, Lindsay brings her passion for climbing to her work, inspiring her clients to excel, build confidence, hone skills, and meet their goals. We dive deep into the interconnectedness among all different forms of climbing and how learning one can inspire the learning of others, and vice versa. I explore in depth Lindsay's mission statement, how she emphasizes educating and inspiring people through patience and partnership. We talked about the balance of work and play, mentorship, and more. I learned so much from Lindsay, and listening to her describe ice climbing made me want to pick up my ice tours again. Yeah, so Lindsay, good morning.
Good morning.
Are you coming in from Montana?
I am. Yeah.
Yeah. Welcome to the Female Guides Requested podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation.
Of course, I'm pretty excited to have you. And I definitely do some research on my end, and you have a website. But can you use your words to just do a little quick introduction of yourself to our audience?
Sure. I'm Lindsay Fixmer. I'm based in Bozeman, Montana. I'm a pretty avid climber, and I'm a rock, ice, and alpine climbing guide. I guess that's a good summary.
That's great. Yeah. And then I have some quick questions, just kind of rapid fire. So how many years have you been guiding?
I started guiding in 2006. So
2006
years. Yeah.
Whoa.
I know.
2006. Yeah.
Was. Yeah. Yeah.
It's like almost 20 years. That's like a good career. Have you done like any other jobs outside of climbing or outdoor industry?
I guess you can't really include high school jobs. I guess you could, between babysitting or working at restaurants or things like that. But I started climbing I think when I was 18, and instantly started working at climbing gyms. And so all of my adult professional careers have been in the climbing industry, whether it was at a climbing gym or guiding. But yeah, so.
I see. Yeah. All right. I mean, definitely babysitting and all those things are kind of real life experience for sure. And
yeah.
Yeah. And during the career in the climbing industry, do you have any big transitions?
Yeah, I think when I started in the indoor industry, I think at one point I was I kind of did a lot of different avenues with indoor climbing. So I went from instructing and route setting, coaching kids climbing teams. At some point I managed a climbing gym, and in managing a gym I realized I much more enjoyed teaching. And a friend of mine that we coached together, this is in the early 2000s, he was managing a guide service called Southern Yosemite Mountain Guides. And so the summer of 2006, he had said, I think you should try coming and working for us for a summer because I think you'd really enjoy this. So that started my trajectory into guiding. And I really loved it right off the bat. And that started going down, the pathway of working at different places across the country, going through the AMGA programs. So, but that was the impetus, was a friend of mine that I coached with saying, I think you'd really enjoy this career. Because at first, friends of mine had said, don't get into guiding, it'll wreck climbing for you. And I think, it depends on the reasons that you get into guiding. For me, I really enjoy teaching, and I enjoy sharing the places that we get to be outside that are absolutely stunning. And climbing is so challenging mentally and physically. And if you enjoy watching people succeed and become more knowledgeable and more skilled, then it's very rewarding work. But if you're getting into it because you want to go climb, that's not, they're very different things between recreating and guiding. So
I see.
Yeah.
And so these friends, so one, maybe somebody told you that guiding could ruin climbing. And then somebody would say, well, Lindsay, you should try this work. These are two different friends, right?
Oh, yeah. Yes. Very different friends. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
The friend of mine who said, you should come and work for us because I think you'll enjoy guiding. But he knew that I'd worked with him coaching kids climbing teams specifically. So he knew I enjoyed instructing, and just thought I would enjoy that aspect of working with people and then taking it to the outside. So, yeah.
And this friend also at that time coaches and guides. So okay. And so how long have you been coaching, like mostly in indoor setting? How long have you done that? And then are you still doing that maybe, or not really?
Yeah, it comes and goes. Not coaching. I'm not, I haven't coached any kids climbing teams in a long time. That was let's see, I think I started working with kids in 2002, and that remained until I think 2006. But I've worked in indoor climbing gyms sporadically over the decades, from probably 2000 until, well, even now. So there's two facilities that I kind of infrequently work at. One is in Bozeman, and there's another community center in Big Sky that has a rec wall in their community center. And so I've worked up there. Actually, I'll work up there tomorrow night. So yeah, that's always fun to continue in that arena. I really enjoy it.
Yeah, that's interesting. You're not the first one I interview that has, say, working in the indoor facility, but then a lot of them, I think, transition out, meaning that they just said, wow, I just really like guiding, and then they put the indoor side behind. It seems like you're still enjoying the indoor part. So what do you do in the indoor, and then what do you find that they connect to the outdoor, I guess?
The movement really connects, because every day that you're out working, whether it's whether it's inside or outside, there's a different way you find to engage with people and teach better movement, because everybody responds and learns differently. And so you're constantly, just the other day, what is today? So 2 days ago, actually, the days all run together. The 2 days ago, I was out with some return clients, or one return client and his girlfriend who I hadn't worked with yet. And I had learned 2 new ways of trying to describe some things to her. And just that day, and I've been teaching ice climbing for a long time, but you're always learning something new. And the way that people respond to the words that you're using, and also the descriptors and the movement, you continually learn how people differently see things and respond. So I think indoor climbing and the way that you teach movement helps you outside. And then the same thing, outside teaching helps you be a better teacher indoors as well. And it's a very different environment. They could be brand new and very excited about this thing, and indoors feels much more calming to them, where it feels like a space that isn't way out of their wheelhouse. They're not trying to combat the elements of outdoors. They can challenge themselves in a little bit more of a comfortable setting. So it's enjoyable to work in both realms, I think. We're pretty fortunate in this profession of the people that are coming it's of their own accord. They've wanted to sign up. No one's there. If you teach in a school, I'm sure a lot of your students really don't want to be there. And so you're coming from a baseline of everyone's interested and are willing in this thing that they're choosing to try out. So yeah, I think that the indoor realm is also very fun. It allows you to get people who are just starting and seeing, are they into this thing? And it can build a lot. I've had people that started from ground zero in a gym and they climb outside now. And that's pretty cool to see the excitement and the transitions and the progress, and clients that you've had for decades and they've become friends, and watching the life roller coaster progression of ups and downs and different trajectories. It's really very rewarding.
I bet you have a lot of experience bringing people who start in indoor outside. Do you have, say, clients that's outside, and then you say, well, if you want to learn this, it's easier to do it inside? Do you bring outside client inside?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because it's indoor training. Well, one, it's really fun, too.
Yes.
With such great training, consistent training to then go outside. All of these, even rock to ice, we say that they're very different, but I don't think that's true, because you're either in or out of balance in life. So that doesn't change. Our ergonomics don't change. It's just the medium. So it all is transferable skills. And it's very exciting to take any of those components and progress. And so whether you're indoor or you're outdoor and you're sport climbing, trad climbing, multi-pitch, single pitch, ice climbing, whatever it is, those are all going to help each other build confidence and movement skills. So I think they all work hand in hand.
Nice. Yeah, I like that you say that they all share something, right? So gym, a lot of times they say gym to crag, rock to ice, or even vice versa. I guess I never really think about vice versa. You say that when you teach things outside, you will find new way to teach things inside. Can you give me some example?
Sure. Let's see. Oh, now I've got to remember. You put me on the spot. Because the most recent thing in my mind, I have a horrible memory, unfortunately. And the most recent thing in my mind was taking something from the outdoors that I will implement into the indoors. But I did a Pilates teacher training, and then this is not related to climbing, but I did this the other week, and there's a connection that you have on that goes across diagonally on your backside from your lats to so if you look at your right lat and then the muscle groups that go diagonally across your body to your left hip, those are all going to work together with how I was describing some movement with ice climbing of where you need to hold tension to support your body for your hips coming into the wall before you're going to move your next tool. And that opposite connection is really important for allowing you to relax on your tool and be supported with your hips. So if I've got my right tool set already and I'm locking off on it, that diagonal movement, the connection is in both of our glutes to push our hips into the wall, but most importantly, it's stemming from our left hip because it's this diagonal connection. So I think my point is, even though I kind of went off on a bit of a tangent, is that all of the things that you learn about your body and movement, you're going to see some sort of connection that you didn't make before that will help teach another skill. So this,
nice.
this Pilates training, yes, that's indoors and it's a different activity, but it all floats over to how I'll teach indoor movement and ice climbing or outdoor rock. They're all connected because it's your body. So
nice. Yeah. It's like, well, you learn the thing and you learn that thing and all of a sudden you join the dots.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty exciting. I got mostly on rock. So I would tell people that, well, indoor climbing is not that different than outside. Movement is movement, right? So you're talking about the new element. The environment is different. The media is different. It's a thing. Yes, it's a thing that need to pick up. So great. And so what do you think is like, obviously, even though you have been guiding for almost 20 years, you think that right now at your current phase, you're still going strong. You're just like, okay, I'm still gonna keep guiding. Or maybe you have some like idea flirting. You say, maybe, I would do something. For example, I know you like music, go like make some money and like sing in the bar and stuff.
I actually have done quite a bit of that, of playing at different coffee shops. And I think more consistently, the years that I worked very consistently, spring through fall in the Sierra, I played at one of the breweries in Bishop and some coffee shops. And yeah, I think I used to play in Vegas when I was there quite a bit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there was a coffee shop. Oh, Samba Latte. That was the one that I played at in Vegas when I stayed there quite a bit. And I haven't played in like live, I guess. I haven't played in a while. But I do still play. It's a nice way to just relax and enjoy time. Yeah, doing something else and relaxing.
I see. Yeah, the reason I ask this is because some people think that guiding is physical and can, people can have injuries, so they like to have something to fall back on, or they feel like they need to juggle different jobs in order to make ends meet or something like that. So I'm just kind of curious that whether you have thought about like those things, like have a little bit of security, or you just like, wow, I can make this guiding work.
Yeah, I think most of us have those thoughts of, is this sustainable? And in terms of your physical abilities and how your body changes and age. And those are very real thoughts. It's also not just a demanding job physically, but we tend to have to move a lot work in different places. There are some places in the country, like you live in Vegas, where you can work year round. And a lot of folks don't, if you live in Bozeman, we have significant shoulder seasons. So we do have to travel quite a bit for other work. And that can be more difficult if you want to be a little bit more home and home-based. So I think most of us go through these times where we find other things that we can, use all of the different skills to put together an income that's workable for the year. So that is one helpful component of working indoors, like at an indoor facility. I work a bit with MSU as well. And years ago, I helped them start some different outdoor programming that were 1 credit based programs, such as sport climbing, ice climbing, bouldering. They're and that's also, yeah, very helpful in just having little extra income. And I guess you're like all professions or life, if you live a pretty long life, that's a lot of years to explore lots of professions and do different things. And I think most people in my generation and younger will never have one profession. I don't think that really exists. I think you go through a lot of transitions. So who knows what the future always brings, but it's just a ride.
Cool. Let's see. I visit your website, and I really liked that you say, okay, get your rock fix, your Alpine fix, your ice fix. Did that just play on the words of your last name?
Yes, and that I've had the nickname Fix for a long
okay.
So it does help that, there is the expression get your fix. And so I just thought I'm definitely going to utilize that, because why wouldn't I? It's a good, little play on words, but a lot of good friends call me Fix. So it's just a nickname as well, but it works well for my website.
Yeah. Cool. And then your mission statement, I like your mission statement, so I'm going to read it out loud here. To educate and inspire each person in their unique with mountain pursuits through knowledge, partnership, and patience. And I really like this patience, but I would love that you elaborate on that, because I think knowledge and partnership is kind of self-evident, that you definitely need knowledge to survive in the mountains. You need a partner unless you're free soloing. And how about patience? Like, why do you think that it's so important that you want to write into your mission statement?
Yeah. Well, I actually also, to expand a bit on partnership, is also that it is a partnership when they have decided, if someone has decided that they're going to hire a guide, they're specifically looking for someone who not only will educate and give them guidance and hopefully inspire them to pursue these different activities that they want to do and excel, but it is very much a partnership. You have to feel confident that your guide is with you and they can relate to you and understand and help you. So, and I guess that goes into patience. I think that's a very huge component, because in order to feel supported and feel that someone is with you to help you, that person needs to be patient. It doesn't help if we're judgmental or impatient with someone who's learning. It doesn't foster a healthy environment. And people learn much better when someone is patient with them, because we all feel that tension and that it can be hard to learn and be vulnerable and open and to acknowledge that we're new at something, especially adults. We're very, very much like sponges when we're young, when we're kids. And it's harder as we age to be a sponge and to be adaptive and say that I am a lifelong learner, because that is important. But it's hard to embrace that, and it's hard to be vulnerable and say, I don't know this, or I'm not good at this, and I'm trying and I'm learning. And patience is a massive component of helping people succeed and opening that door to being more vulnerable and being okay with that.
So you're saying that, do you encourage your clients to think about their guides, not just a teacher, but also a partner?
Yeah, because we have a partnership. They have to rely on me to, no matter where we are, we could be far back in the mountains, we could be 20 minutes from the car, but I am their partner in helping them succeed that day. And they're taking They're taking a risk of saying, okay, Lindsay's going to be the risk manager today, and she's going to teach me a bunch of things, and she's going to provide me with this educational experience, and I'm going to push myself mentally and physically. And that's a partnership. Whether
and yes, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, even a financial contract is still, that's a partnership, you know.
And then if it's a partnership, so what do you ask from them as a guide?
Yeah, that's good. It does depend on the day, the person, the objective, what they want out of the day, their goals and everything. But my expectation is that people show up as they can and try. And I think folks have recognized that in general, have understood that I'm here to try this thing. And that can mean something different for everybody. You know, we prep people if we're going to do a big overnight trip. They know how many miles, what's the elevation gain and loss, what does the terrain look like, what do I need to anticipate in terms of the different gear and tools and things that I have. So we prep them as much as possible, right? And so they know how they need to be there to show up and try. Yes, does that make sense?
Yes, it totally makes sense, because I was just inspired by you were talking about partnership. I was thinking that a lot of time I ask my guests about their goals and expectations, but I think it's also pretty important. And then I tell them, say, hey, look, I want you to, for example, I want you to speak up if this and that happens or stuff. So then it's like, yes, it is partnership and I have more experience, but I still need something from them.
Yes.
Yeah. And on this patience component, so, well, as a teacher, want to create, as an educator, want to create a good learning environment. So, but definitely, I think that you probably also instill that concept into your students and clients about, well, if you're talking about the vulnerability component, right? So they have to open up and be patient, so then they can grow and learn.
Yeah, I like that you said that, because it is a two-way street, that we also have to be patient with ourselves when we're learning something. And that can be very hard, right? Especially when, you know, we've had a lot of clients who were very disappointed in themselves and their performance. You know, they'll say, but I trained, I spent all this time doing this, and how am I too tired to summit this mountain? And things happen. We have to have patience with ourselves and grace, and the mountains teach us that. You know, sometimes the weather is perfect, the conditions are perfect, but that person's not at the place that they need to be. And that's very hard. I've had lots of conversations sitting on the side of some mountain at a notch or a saddle or the base, and just saying, hey, this happens, but there's always alternatives. And it's good learning, right? Because you have to realize that sometimes it's just not in the cards, and you have to train harder or do something different. And our bodies are always changing. Our risk tolerance changes throughout life. Our mindsets change. So having patience is hard, but it's very important. But yeah, that statement is really for both saying that I have patience with people, and that they have to have patience with themselves, and that's a hard process, but it's important. So yeah, that's
it is
part of
definitely important. Yes,
yeah.
It's definitely important. And I can also understand, because I would tell my clients that, well, you gotta be patient, but during my own life, I'm not very patient about my own progress. So.
Oh yeah, I know, it's hard, isn't it? We all like to say stuff, but then when it comes down to us, we're going, I don't want to be patient with myself right now. I want to make this happen.
Yeah, yes, definitely. And I learned a lot just from, like, I told my clients, you need to do this well. I just said, oh, darn, I'm not following my own advice in my real life.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. But we strive for the best. I'm trying.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And so you start more like so maybe the first sport outdoor sport that try is it rock climbing, or maybe you grew up in Bozeman, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you mean when I was a kid, what I first did?
Yeah. So how did you get into outdoor, or you just naturally, it was the environment just brought it? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely naturally. If you ask my parents, I was always in a tree. So that was we moved a lot when I was little, and well, all throughout my life I've moved a lot, but actually I shouldn't say little. It was all the years that I was growing up, we moved quite a bit, and I remember every house we moved to saying to asking my parents, okay, are there trees? Is there a big tree in the yard? Because that was, that's really what I needed, was just something to climb. And I'm sure my mom thought, no, let's not get homes with large trees that Lindsay can't climb into. But at some point, I think I was 8 or 9, we moved to the Front Range, outside, around the hogback we had a Littleton address, but we were right in the foothills. And so close to my home, I could hop my fence and go run up into the hills. And there were rocks that were close to our house that I would climb. And I think I always loved the outdoors and climbing. And when I was I think it was when I was 12, I can't remember exactly how this was organized, but there were a bunch of teachers in the school district that went on a backpacking trip into the Canyonlands in Utah, and they would invite some students that had just graduated from 6th grade. And so I was one of those students that was on this backpacking trip. And my family, we never went backpacking. We just went hiking. My parents were more, let's go home at the end of the day and sleep in a real bed, kind of thing. So, but I always wanted to go camping, and that was a life-changing experience, because it's one of those times. Yeah, the backpacking trip. I think it was probably about a week long or something. And, you have these moments when you're growing up of realizing how large the world is. And that was one of those. I'm 12 years old, carrying this heavy backpack, just loving living in the dirt. And I'm sure it was an external frame backpack. Who knows if we had tents? We could have, but it could have been
external backpack.
Yeah, right. All of the old school stuff. So, but that was very life-changing. I loved it. And I remember looking at the map and thinking, we walked so far, but we didn't. We went only this far on this map, but I feel like we just walked forever throughout all this huge landscape. And that's when you really realize how small you are and how large the earth and the universe is. And it was pretty amazing. I loved it. So I think that was the impetus for a lot of different things in my life, of wanting to explore and see so many different landscapes. And then when I started climbing, that was a way to do that, was to push myself mentally and physically. And, I think that's a beautiful part of taking climbing trips, is you get to look at a different landscape, be in a different place, understand a different culture, and be immersed in all of that while also doing this thing that you love doing. I think that's pretty special.
Yeah. That must be, you say life-changing for a 12-year-old. There must be, and then you still remember it here after so many years. It must be quite profound. Well, I have two thoughts. First of all, Canyonlands doesn't have any trees.
Nope.
Yeah. And so you like climbing trees, but definitely they have rock and canyons. And this one time I went to Canyonlands and definitely see a group of maybe just 12 years old backpacking. And I remember at that time my thought was just, wow, there's really not that much water available in there.
Yeah.
So these kids have to cope. And then And I really wonder whether any of them would like this heavy backpack and have to deal with the water. And then the terrain is not necessarily easy.
No, yeah.
Do you remember why it's like, other than, wow, this is cool, different landscape, kind of big adventure. Have you thought about like why you love it so much? And how about your other kids in the group?
Yeah, I it's probably because I'm a very active person. So I've always loved running. I got into running when I was a teenager quite a bit, even when we moved so much that the last high school that I went to, I was just kind of over changing teams and coaches and everything. So I no longer played basketball or soccer. Those were my main sports. I swam for quite a bit too until 8th grade because none of the high schools that I went to had a pool. But so my senior year of high school, I just got into running and would just run it was like Forrest Gump or something, just run forever and then come back home. But I think I've always just enjoyed moving. And that's how my mom said I was when I was a toddler, was just as constantly moving until I would just crash, pass out, just like go to sleep. So I think, going on that backpacking trip was so profound because I hadn't done anything like that, but it was right up my alley of just nonstop moving and being able to just be, everything's just in your backpack and you're just going. And I think that those kind of things were always important. And when I got into climbing, and at some point, I think the first road trip I ever took, your classic climbing road trip, that was also life-changing, of just thinking, this is what I want to do. How do I just do this my whole life?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so when was that road trip? Where did you go? How long was it?
I bet it was a few weeks because I think I had a bunch of summer jobs and had taken a few weeks with a friend of mine, and we went into South Dakota. Oddly, this is the last time I've climbed in South Dakota. I need to go back. It'd be fun to revisit these places that I, was there when I had very little knowledge and skill set. We went to South Dakota and it culminated in the Tetons. And I remember thinking, oh, wow, this is an amazing range. How cool would it be to come back here? Which is neat. Then I ended up working in the Tetons it might have been the summer of 2012, I think. And I remember having these very vague recollections of being there when I was much younger. And it's pretty neat to, these memories from long ago and where you were as a kid, basically, or very young adult.
I like it though, because I have to tell you that right now, I mean, I love climbing, obviously, still, and but a lot of times I just like, I want to try new things, and then I just said, but I don't know what I want to try. Then I keep thinking back, what did I want to do when I was a kid?
Yeah, do you remember?
I don't, but there'll be something like, I always want to dance. I love dancing, but then my parents, like traditional Asian parents, they think girls should be like girls, so I didn't get to do it that much. I was like, whoa, even though right now I'm much older now, it seems kind of silly, but why not?
Yeah. What kind of dance would you be interested in doing?
I actually did take out some boring dancing, but then I actually like the hip hop dance, which is kind of silly.
Yeah. No, well, you're talking to. I've been a big fan of underground hip hop a long time, so I can understand, because I always thought, how fun would it be to take up hip hop dancing? But there's also a part of me that I think would be cool to take up tap dancing. So yeah, I feel ya. Dancing's pretty cool.
Yeah, and so I started watching YouTube videos, and I was like, I mean, obviously, climbing is expressive in movement, but dancing is so different, and I'm awkward. And, yeah, but it's just I just feel like a lot of time trace back to the childhood. Then so I really
actually
like that.
I
Yes, go
think
ahead.
I do think dancing does coincide. Well, it's all movement, right? I do think it actually helps with rock climbing, or maybe not as much. Well, I bet with ice as well, because dancers are very tuned in, not just to their body, but their feet. So if you've ever worked with someone who was a former ballet dancer, you can tell instantly the way that they place their feet on the rock or on a climbing wall. You just know, oh, you danced, didn't you? Or gymnasts, the way that they hold themselves, because they have a very, very stable core, and you can tell the gymnasts that they start climbing. They're all very related. Yeah.
It's definitely all very related. I believe that if somehow, like, just like you said, that you dabble into what you were talking about karate class. And
the Pilates,
yeah. And then you have this thought of you connect to your existing knowledge database, right? So I think definitely if I really learn dancing, that I can find something.
Definitely. Yeah.
And sorry, this is not about me. Let's talk about you.
No, that's great. You've reignited my interest in perhaps learning hip hop dancing or tap dancing.
You never know. Maybe you two can like build a team, and then we will go do some like dancing together.
That'd be amazing.
But at current stage, so then you start climbing, all right? So the climbing is a way for you to be physical, to explore the world. And I see that you have done some traveling, right? So you say, obviously you're local, Montana, and then all that. So I see this trip in India that you did with 2 other women. And can you describe that trip a little bit to us?
Yeah, it was pretty amazing in terms of, well, I think I mentioned this before, especially with international trips, because you get to experience all of the parts of a place that you would want to if you went there as a tourist, right? You get to experience the culture, the food, the art, just the landscape, right? And then you also get to be like what you enjoy doing and climbing there. And so you see it, the city landscape and country and mountains, and then you're fully immersed in the place, which I think is really very special. In India, I loved it there. It was just so different and so amazing, and the food was amazing, and the mountains that we were in were just stunning and beautiful. And now you're making me want to go back. So it's always hard to pick the new places, and then you know at some point you want to return to a lot of the places that you loved. And that's when you realize, even if you live a long time, life is so fast. But India was amazing. I really loved that being there.
And was that your first trip to India, or that was and have you been back after that?
I have not been back, and that was 2017. That's what I mean by time flies. I think, that was 2017. I would love to go back. There's some other valleys that were out of, I think the last larger town that were kind of sort of large that we drove through was Padam. And there's another valley out of there that looked really interesting to go and see what the climate would be like there. But India was an amazing place. I really loved it.
Yeah, because I found this article on Alpine's website, and you and 2 other women, now the space, I space out the names. I know one's Anna
Pfaff and Savannah Cummins. Yeah.
And whose idea was that to explore that region?
It was probably Anna's. They both work, well, I think they both still work with the North Face. I know Anna does. I'm not sure if Savannah does. And so it was a North Face trip. They weren't able, another lady was supposed to go on that trip, and I think she had an injury or something. And so Anna reached out to see if I could go. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. Was that original just like, okay, we want to do an all-female ascent?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. I see.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right, because go ahead.
Oh, that's it. Yeah, it was a all women trip. Yeah.
All right. And so you got on the Ting too, and then you went to a Zanskar range in northern India and the Himalayas. And you both, your team did some new lines and summits on mountains. Was first ascents at your radar when you were climbing and guiding?
Wait, sorry, say that again.
It's like doing first ascent. Was it always on your radar, or it just happened that since Anna invited you, why not?
Oh yeah, that's interesting. The first time I did some, what I would say are very legitimate first ascents, aside from maybe putting up some climbs that are more, single pitch lines, was a trip that the year before was 2016, where Chicks Climbing and Skiing did a Iceland trip. And at the time, there wasn't a lot of information on different routes. Kitty Calhoun and Don Glantz had gone there, I think, some years previously, and knew that that area had really good ice. So it was just more, you drive around, you see some ice, you get out of the car and you go, and who knows, it could have been climbed, it might not have been, but it was all just, very fly by the seat of your pants, try it out and see how it all goes. But we were guiding, so it was just such a wild experience, because it was, one, a whole new place where you didn't have any information, and we were guiding, and it was an all women's trip. And I think that really pushed me to just realize that I could be very confident in the skills that I have and be able to, I understood what I would be able to do and how much I could push the envelope, and also within the risk tolerance that I have, whether it's guiding or whether it was with partners or friends. And I think that was probably a big, trying to think of the word, that was a big experience to be able to take that into the future. So India felt very a good next step of knowing that I understand where I can push the envelope and keep it within the realm that I want to. So that, I think Iceland helped with that kind of transition.
Okay. Yeah. So because Iceland, I assume, so you can correct me if I'm wrong, because it's also a guiding trip.
Mm-hmm.
So when you pick objective, it's not just like you can go really unknown, really gnarly. You need to make sure that your clients can also manage those things.
Yeah. They did have to have a certain skill set, because the requirements to go to Iceland were, you need to be able to follow Water Ice 5, although there were definitely harder climbs than that. That just happenstance based on the conditions, and they needed to be able to build ice screw anchors and actually be able to be a little self-sufficient as well. They couldn't be more green. Which was good, because oftentimes you had to make adjustments based on the conditions and, how to get off of something that you had climbed. It wasn't always just V-thread, really straightforward. There were some more interesting ways of getting off of things. So yeah, it was, they had a higher skill set going into Iceland. Actually, we went there 2 years. We went to different places in the West Fjords. There's Isafjord and Bildular. And both of those trips in 2016 and 2017 were, it could have been new climbs, or they could have been climbs that were repeated that we didn't know if someone had done them previously.
I see. And how about the mindset you had when you went to India, like with two highly competent climbers?
That was basically, we just had conversations of what we thought were possible in that area of different climbs we could do. And then based on weather and conditions, was it going to be a snow climb, some ice, rock? Because we had variable conditions in that. Sometimes we could rock climb and sometimes we were on some ice on a bigger mountain. So, yeah.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah. I mean, I definitely agree. And like, if you can pull off some first ascent, you feel like, wow, now you're confident. It's definitely a confident boost.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so, go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, no, yeah, it's definitely, it's solidifying of your skills and allows you to mentally and physically take on more things. I think that's,
nice. And in one of the websites I saw, there's a quote. You said, "Yeah, you admit that ice is my life. Yeah, that's my obvious is you." And so you start maybe more dabble on rock climbing, and then got really serious into it. But at some point, you start climbing ice. Is that the correct timeline? Like from rock into ice? Okay.
Yes, that is correct. Yeah. That quote was from Frozen. There's that little kids movie, an animated movie called Frozen, where Kristoff says, "Ice is my life."
Okay.
I thought, I feel that.
You feel that way. So, So can you describe that? I dabble on ice climbing. I'm not really an ice climber. It was cold for me. So how did you find ice climbing? And then how come that now you're like, wow, yes, ice, it is it.
Yeah, it's a funny trajectory, because when the first time I ever went ice climbing, I was rock climbing at that point for maybe 2 or 3 years, and some friends took me out, and in classic friend mode, didn't teach me anything. They just handed me the tools. I had the crampons on, back in the day, leashes, straight shaft. It was probably 0 degrees, very, very cold. And they just said, "You're a good rock climber. Just go." And then we had a top rope set up. And I said, "Okay, what do I do?" And they just said, "Well, just swing and kick." And I thought, okay. So, obviously it was not enjoyable because I didn't learn how to swing, how to be stable on the tool, how to kick, all of the things that are so vital to enjoying ice climbing, because it's very movement particular. It was, I got down after that first lap, had crazy screaming barfies, because I'd overgrip the tools and all the things. And so I just thought, well, this sport kind of sucks. So I put it aside until, I don't know, a few years later, a friend of mine who was an ice climber, I think this might have been 2004, 2005. And he goes, "I really do think you'd like this. You should try this. Just come out with me. I'll show you how to do this." And I thought, okay. And he kind of did. I remember thinking, oh, I could see how people like this. And then it wasn't till a couple of years later, and I was working for some guide company that did some ice climbing. And so I got into it a little bit more. And I think it was finally a winter where I had, 12 to 15 days or something, where I thought, oh, okay, I think I'm understanding this better and I like it. It's actually pretty fun. But I look back and I realize, if I had hired a guide for a day, I just had learned how to ice climb, I bet I would have loved it instantly. Like, to not have any instruction is brutal, because it's such a hard, it's like someone strapping a snowboard to your feet and saying, "We're not going to give you any instruction, just go down this hill. Good luck." Like, it's pretty, yeah, it's a really harsh learning curve, and you're probably not going to enjoy it. So, Yeah.
Yeah,
And
when you
ice is,
describe it, yeah, when you describe
yeah.
your experience, I was like, wow, that's why guides are important. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. Teachers are important of how
Yes.
do I do this thing? Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm glad that you didn't just totally terminate the like chances. I'm not gonna touch it again.
Yeah, me too, because I love it now. It's such an aesthetic medium and it's very amazing. And it's cool to find these lines that are so difficult and you think, okay, I think I can make this go. I'm not sure. And then yeah, it's just such a puzzling, really fun thing. Yeah, I love it. It's a beautiful medium.
Yeah, then I want to dig a little bit deeper. I mean, I ice climb let me think, maybe 6 days total in my life.
Mhm.
And I always told people, say, well, I love rock climbing. I feel the movements is more abundant and more expressive, and I can touch the media. And
Yeah.
and ice climbing, yes, the photo looks cool, but and so I would love, to learn more your experience to let me understand more about ice climbing and see maybe it's not that bad.
Yeah. Well, okay, so to be fair, I think this is going to sound harsh. Ice
Okay.
is really fun when it's harder, like when it's more difficult. It's more
Mm,
interesting for like weird, crazy formations. That's when it's super fun. But we don't get to start on water ice 5. You have to learn the basics, and water ice 2 and 3 provides that. But it feels very tic-tacky because you're learning, okay, how do I get this tool set? How does my body move around this? How do I make this nice triangle around this tool? Because your tool is your center point, your balance. And so that's honestly that's not the really fun ice, right? But we have to start there to get to the fun stuff, because if you don't learn how to swing, how to set your feet, how to balance around your tool, you can't climb these crazy vertical and overhanging amazing lines that have mushrooms and parachutes and some, funky wind sculpted thing. And then ice is always changing. It's never the same. The routes always change, which is pretty cool. Like there's a very classic route in Highlight called the Thrill Is Gone that I love going to because it's always changing. It's east facing, so it gets the sun, depending on the time of year. A little bit later now, it'll hold sun a little longer because the sun's higher in the sky now. But in early season, it's a shorter time. But the minute the sun comes and hits it at 10 o'clock in the morning, it's changing. It's morphing right away, and it starts melting and more water's running. It's going to be different tomorrow than it was today. And that's pretty cool. You have to, if a rock route's going to change, it's because a hold broke off or something, but ice is constantly morphing. So you get to just be on a different climb all the time.
So you're saying that I know that snow and ice is a lot more condition dependent,
Yeah.
obviously, than rock. And so of course people who feel like they want a little bit more security, they prefer rock climbing. And then, but you also say that the condition ever evolving is also a big draw for you.
Yeah, definitely. And it is a very aesthetic medium. It's just like looking at, the rock. We have a lot of different types of rock, and you could go to the desert and look up at a desert tower and think, oh, that looks really cool. I want to climb that. That's how ice is all the time. It's just it's such an amazing thing to look at. And I know it's probably the most ridiculous idea to climb frozen water and hack away at the medium that you're trying to go up. That sounds really strange, but it is so much fun. It's such an interesting, it's such an interesting environment. Yeah.
So would you agree with the statement that water ice is more fun than alpine ice?
Nope. I like them
Okay.
both, but I do like all of it because it's fun to be on ice in all kinds of terrain, whether it's this super long water ice flow or you're on a mountain and you're doing some mixed ice and rock terrain. I think they're all very different and interesting experiences. And I think that's what I really enjoy with climbing is I've always gone after something different and something new. And I'm now challenging myself over the last couple years to actually have projects because I've never climbed that way. I've always just gone, I really enjoy on-siting and new things. And I thought this is a part of me that it would be good to learn this process of having something that I'm going after, an inspiring line that I think, okay, I can't just get this in 3 tries or 5 tries. This is going to take some time. And so, ice is always like that because it's always different. If you go and climb some route that you really enjoyed, the next year when you go climb it, it'll be different. So,
nice.
Yeah. So with rock, I'm trying to find things that inspire me to work them a bit. So I, find the joy of projecting that, I've never really pursued that. So it's cool to try something a little different from my standard style.
Yeah. And you say it might sound harsh that, you need to get the basic and then to be a more advanced level to have fun on ice. I can understand that, even though right now, because I have limited experience to imagine that, but I can see that a little bit in rock climbing too.
Yeah. And it can be, it's interesting because that can be very different. I think the thing is climbing, you're pushing yourself. And so the more that you learn about it and the more you push it, the more you can up your level and things will continue to get to be harder and more engaging, but in different ways. And I think that's the appeal of getting to a harder type of climb, whether it's ice or rock, where it really is at your max and you're trying to figure that out. Like, how do I adapt to this? And with rock, that's a very different way. How you push yourself in rock is way different than how you push yourself in ice, because we don't want to fall on ice. We have all these sharp things attached to us. Well, leading, top roping, whatever, it doesn't matter. You're just going to stay there and it's fine. But leading ice, you don't want to fall with these sharp things. So it's almost the opposite of sport climbing, because sport climbing, we push ourselves until we fall. And ice the goal is to ward off the pump, is not get pumped, keep shaking out, don't get pumped. Okay, where do I need to go from here? How are these feet going to position me to move to my next tool and swing? And how's the ice behaving and reacting to me being on it? And there's all of these other components. Whereas sport climbing, you're just in it with that one route and the sequence, and you can just push it till you fall. It doesn't matter. So they're very different mindsets, I think, which is really cool to have a very different type of climbing, and it's all under the umbrella of climbing.
I like it, because then my interpretation from listening to it just like, well, if you play this game, you need to understand this game. And then once you understand this game, then you can have fun.
Yeah.
Because if I use the sport climbing mindset to climb ice, then things gonna be disastrous. But then
potentially.
right. Yeah. Then probably not gonna be fun. But if you were talking about, look, ice climbing is the cool thing is you manage to pump, you find out whatever, then I just like, then I can see that if I play by the rules, that can be really fun.
Yeah. And I shouldn't just say it as that it's managing the pump. It's also that the ice is always changing. So it could look a certain way from the ground. And you think, oh, I'll get an ice screw in this spot, or I'll get one up here, I bet. And sometimes you're 50 feet off the deck going, actually, this ice is a little different than I thought it was going to be. And I'm basically soloing right now until I can get a good piece. So it is very different than rock in terms of you have to be very solid in your movement and understanding, continually trying to figure out the difference, how ice is behaving. And the more time you have on it, the more you can more easily read it and think of what were the temperature fluctuations, what's the, is there some layering in this ice? You're constantly looking at all of these factors, and that takes time to learn that. So that's another component that I should probably add. It's not just that your movement needs to be incredibly solid in terms of not falling with sharp things, but also that you might not get the pro that you anticipated getting. Whereas sport climbing, you look up and you say, yep, all those bolts look good. They're spaced appropriately.
Right. Early on of our conversation that you mentioned, we talk about like say indoor to outdoor. You also mentioned like rock to ice. What do you think the transition from rock and to ice? And then what can we get? Say if I'm like, say I'm a pretty good rock climber, say how can I bring my advantage to ice?
Oh yeah, I love this conversation because they really do work hand in hand together. I think ice brings you better footwork in rock. So, like you mentioned before, you're detached from the medium on rock or on ice, excuse me. Because rock, we have a direct connection with our hands, and we have one piece removed with a shoe, but that shoe is very tight, and we can feel through that little bit of rubber. You can feel your toe. And with ice, we have one disconnect between the tool and the ice. So your tool is kind of like stirring pasta in a pot. You can feel when the noodle is getting softer. So you can tell, you have that sensation of feeling. But with our feet, we're 2 steps removed. We have a boot, and our toe is not at the end of it. Well, hopefully, because you're going to bash your toenails if your boot's too tight. And if you kick incorrectly. But you have a boot and you have a crampon and then the ice. So you don't have as much sensation. And it's not quite like walking on the ground because you just have your front points and the secondary points engaged with the crampon. So you don't get the whole, oh, I can feel this whole thing through my foot. It's much less engagement, especially when you're learning. Because if you climb for a while, you can start to feel it better, that disconnect. You still know when your foot's good. But when you first start, there's a significant distrust, even more than I think when you start slab climbing as a rock climber. And people say, oh yeah, paste, smear, paste it, trust it. And you're going, really? It's the same thing with ice climbing where you go, really? It doesn't feel really set. And so people just keep kicking, wailing away because they think, I've got to feel something. There's got to be something more, that's some bigger sensation. So we have to look at our feet very, very intently. So if you learn that in ice, you become a better rock climber because you look at your feet much more with a precision and intention than I think previously people did. So the ice really helps your footwork in rock, I think. Now with rock, all of those advanced techniques that we learned, drop knees, heel hooks, turning in that hip to arm connection of I turn my right hip in to reach farther with my right hand. I turn my left hip in to reach farther with my left hand. It's the same with ice. When we get into funky ice climbing, that isn't very uniform curtain ice, but more undulating, has some, mushrooms or bulges or some parachutes that we're moving through. All of those advanced rock climbing techniques are exactly what we use ice climbing. Because we don't always hold our tools. Sometimes we might put our arm around a pillar so we can reach up a little higher to put the tool higher, because we don't want to actually swing into the base of the pillar. So we actually are going to grab it with a hand instead. And so all of these things that you learn in rock of how to move your hips around something, maybe the pillar's really narrow and I can only put one foot on it or one crampon point, and my other foot has to back flag, or it has to heel hook around the pillar because I can't impact it. Oh yeah. Like you do all kinds of, funky maneuvering. And so when I said before that our bodies don't change ergonomically, it's all the same. It's just a different medium. These are very cross-related. The techniques that I do, rock climbing, I'm going to do ice climbing. It's for more advanced ice, because if I have a flat sheet of ice in front of me, that's just a planar curtain. It's going to be very much the technique that you first learn in terms of that triangle, the perfect triangle, the equilateral triangle of tool, feet come up around the tool, feet on the same plane. But when we get into more funky ice, it's more about how do I balance on my tool? If I'm hanging off my right tool, where do my feet need to be in balance around it? And you use more rock climbing technique for that. So it's funny because anytime I work with a rock climber who is learning how to ice climb, the minute I put them on more vertical or steeper terrain where they have to adapt to an interesting and different ice shape, they come down and they'll say, "Oh, I like this a lot more. It's like rock climbing." And I say, "Yeah, I know. They're very similar." Yeah. Because they're using the same body technique. They already innately know, "Oh, I turn this hip in to reach my tool higher. Okay, I see."
Right. Then, I guess then when you turn your hip in, because so you would ice climbing, right? You front pointing.
Mm-hmm.
And when you turn your hip in, how can you be really stable on your feet too?
Yeah, that's a great question. So our crampons have points on all the bottom sides, right? You've got the entire platform of the base of your foot is. So we start to turn into different points. We love to use our front and our secondary points. Those are the stability that we have if we're just going to kick straight onto the ice. But when we move our feet in different ways around varying terrain, this is hard to say without, some imagery with this. So bear with me a little bit, but you end up turning your feet. And so you'll have different parts of your front point on, or maybe you'll even have the lower half of your front plate pushed against another column of ice. So you literally are, you're rotating the lower part of your leg out so the base of your crampon hits something to the side. So it's like a stem, only, and you've turned your foot so that the points of all of your crampons are hitting like this other ice chunk next to you. So you always can turn around and not necessarily use the parts of your crampon that we first learned to use.
And does that make the foot placement a little bit less secure?
It may or may not. It might be more of a stability move. And then if I pivot on something, and I'm reaching higher, let's say I'm straight on with my hips and I'm trying to move higher with my right tool, I can rotate or pivot on a front point in order to do so, and I don't necessarily lose that connection because that point is still on that ice. Yeah.
Oh, that's really exciting to learn that. So I'm in my head, I'm imagining, right? So rock climbing, you were talking about toe in, so you can pivot better, or outside edge, inside edge, and then obvious toe hooking and heel hooking and all those footwork. So obviously for ice climbing, you still, instead of like front pointing, you have all sorts of other type of footwork. And so of course it will combine with your rest of body and then to form some sort of body position too.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That make ice climbing sound so much more fun to me.
Yeah, it's. I think that's the thing is, the more that people identify how to do something, the more attainable and more fun it really is. Because if I look at my trajectory with skiing, I tried to learn to ski as an adult. And I mean, I think I went twice as a kid ever, which isn't enough to understand, and then there's this massive 14-year hiatus or something like that. I don't know what it was, but I realized, okay, I need to take avalanche programs, so I need to learn to ski. Now they offer avalanche programs on boots, which is quite lovely. And yay for the Alpine guide. But I tried to learn to ski, and I had these moments of little breakthroughs or little epiphanies because someone actually did try to describe what my leg was doing or what my torso was doing. And that was massive, because if people just say these non-helpful terms of, oh, you got it, you're athletic, that doesn't teach me how to do this thing. So it's much more helpful if you say to people, this is how your body needs to be positioned. This is how you do this thing. This is like how you kick, how you swing. That's why I didn't like ice climbing the first time I went out, because I didn't know what I was supposed to do. So it's, you have to have people describe things for you to actually enjoy it. It's rare that people take to things naturally,
Right. I mean, I think it's a little bit hard, especially when you are an adult. Maybe like kids could potentially just go out and play and have fun. I don't know. I mean, I can't go back to the age. So, but I found that because I learned English as second language, I just like, well, right now I'm just learning everything like learning English because it's second language.
Yeah.
But I can never recall how I learned my native language. Just no way.
Right. Yeah. Because it was there since birth.
Yes. Yeah. But it's yes, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I understand that rock is a little different because as a kid, you're always climbing things because you're small. You're small when you're 1 or 2, learning to walk, getting up on a chair to sit down on the chair. You have to climb. You have to do these things that you're directly connected with. But if you're to strap skis onto somebody's feet or put ice tools in their hands, those aren't intuitive movements, right? So those kind of things you have to learn. Whereas there's things that are innately, like your first language is innately with you because that's what you heard from day one. And how you physically move through the world is with you from day one.
Yeah. But it definitely helped that when you were explaining ice climbing and then also add some reference from rock climbing, because I know rock climbing. So, so then I can relate, even though I can't right now perform those techniques you mentioned on ice climbing, but I just like, wow, now I have a better visual in my head to imagine stuff. And I think that as a teacher and guide, things that we often just like, okay, what the client is coming from, right? So we're trying to see whether we can facilitate the connection or new skill to their existing skill set.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Ooh.
exactly. Yeah. Now I want to take you ice climbing.
Yeah. And I would be pretty awkward at the very beginning for sure. But it's so cool though. This world has so many things that we can explore.
Right?
Oh,
yeah.
Gee, I don't have, and we're going to run out of time and don't run out with play. That's kind of nice.
I think you hit the nail on the head though, is that this, there's so many things to explore in life. And I think climbing is such a cool way to do that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And what do you say? I know that you love all the things. Do you, and you love teaching too, but right now, what's your balancing act on your personal climbing and guiding?
Oh yeah. Right now I'm actually doing a pretty good job of balancing play, which is amazing. That can be more rare. Yeah.
But tell me how.
Oh yeah. So my partner, we've made very considerable efforts of saying, okay, we want to take a couple trips every year together. And that has helped create that balance, I think, because we say we want to take, and I love that we've done this. And I know this is very fortunate for us both to be able to do this in life, is to say we get to take one international trip a year, and hopefully we can take one domestic trip that's about 2 weeks. And then we have little other, short, maybe a weekend trip if I have a weekend off or something like that, because he works a pretty standard Monday through Friday job. Sometimes he'll have one other day off a week or something. But he also has built into his contract that he can do, he can take off for 3 weeks or something if we want to do an international trip. So I think that's helped me balance the work and the play of saying I build my work schedule around these trips that we want to take. And then I know that I'm taking that time and taking advantage of some really treasured times, not just with him, because we both love traveling together and enjoying the different cultural aspects of all of that. But also just to have that mental break from work and everything. So yeah, I think it's planning. It all has to, like, my 2025 is planned out already, which is,
whoa, it's
yeah,
early March right now. Great.
Yeah. Yep.
And
yeah,
do you
so that's
find, so I heard that, some of the guys I interviewed just like, well, they all, some of them have the whole year planned out. Did you find that that's because right now you already been in this industry long enough, so you build enough base, or you find that because you have a priority, you said, okay, I really want this personal playtime, so then you try all the means you can find to make that happen?
Yeah, it's a mix of all of those things, of saying, well, I currently also this is my 3rd year now on the instructor team for the AMGA, and I teach in the Alpine and the rock disciplines. So that's a component of my work that's already set out a year in advance, because they know what programs are going to happen. Sure, there are some changes because students get injured, instructors get injured, things like that, where people kind of come and go off a roster. So maybe you pick up one thing, or you give another program to someone else. So there could be some shifting in there, but those are set ahead of time. And then I already know where I'm going to be working. The winter is very consistent of I guide in Bozeman and Cody. I have a lot of return clients that I know to line up and contact them in advance. And then new folks will kind of float in, and you fill in the gaps. And then similar with summer is knowing, okay, I'm going to be in these different areas. Where do I kind of stack people in this? What open time do I have? And that was one impetus for starting my website a year ago, Fix Guiding, because then people could go to that website and know, okay, great, this is what Lindsay offers. This is where she'll be. And I can contact her for these different places. And there's also kind of a Where's Lindsay item that you can click on to look at, oh, great, she's here. I could hire her in this area right now. So it's kind of a mix, because I do have a lot of return clients, but there's also, you have room to put more people in to fill up the remainder of the schedule. And then with that in mind, I just look at, okay, what are the longest time frames I have off to take trips with my partner, and then how else do I want to fill in my schedule is basically how it all gets aligned. So yeah.
I see. And how far in advance you have to plan this thing?
I think it was sometime in the last month where I said, this is pretty funny. I just have to send my partner an email with the rundown of, this is when we have our time together. These are the trips that we want to take, these dates. And so he just can look at that email and refer to it of, yep, okay, so this is when I'm going to take off of work. And then these are some gaps that we have. Like, do we want to go to a couple of local venues that we like to go to. And then we look at the dates. So he also has the dates that I'm gone. Okay, Lindsay's going to be working in Red Rocks during this time, or wherever. So it's a nice reference point. So I think we had that all solidified about a month ago. So it's
nice.
Yeah,
I'm glad that you have like a balance. So far, at least you feel this way. That's good.
Thanks. Yeah, it is hard finding a balance, just like the Atmosphere song. Since you like hip hop, there you go. Trying to find a balance is always hard in life.
Wow, you're so easy to talk to now. As I'm looking at my clock, time flies. But I still want to talk at least one more topic.
Okay, no worries.
It's about mentorship.
Yeah.
So do you find that easy to find mentors? Do you provide mentorship to other people? And then what's your most profound experience being mentor or being a mentor?
Yeah, I think it's funny when I look at my own personal climbing career. I think I had my friends and I mentored each other. Like one of my first memories of learning how to climb was in an indoor gym, and a few friends and I a few people we all became friends and went outside together to learn together. So we bought John Long's How to Anchor book and I know it's great. Tried to replicate, just said, okay, this looks like what he's built. This looks good. And so we did our own little Jim DeCrag series, very unprofessional, but clearly no anchor failed. So that's good. So the book must have been well written. I'll give John Long that. I'm sure it was. So I think it was very self and partner based of learning together. And then I think I would say that my biggest mentors then were when I started going through AMGA programs, because it was a more professional, that I'm learning from someone in the profession who was an established guide. And they taught me honestly more about caring. I think that's why I say Tom Hargis was one of my biggest mentors, because he highlighted that he's always a lifelong learner. And one of the most impactful statements he ever made was saying, the day I stop learning is the day I stop guiding. And I think that's just true for any profession, no matter what you do, is if you've shut yourself off to learning or just don't want to do it anymore, you're on to something else in your life. You're just thinking, okay, I'm not into this profession anymore. I want to do this other thing because I don't have the bandwidth anymore, the patience, or there's something that's happening that's blocking you from learning. And I think that's really profound. It perfectly sums up how something should be for anyone, whether any profession. I think if you're just your mind's not there anymore, if you don't want to learn. And so that was important to hear that from Tom. And I've very much taken that to heart with anything that I know that I want to do, whether I'm teaching or in another profession. It's the goal of being a lifelong learner is very important. And I think we have a lot of pressure in this profession. I know other professions probably do as well, of this idea that I know everything and I don't have anything more to learn is just not true. Or we have this idea of peer pressure and that everyone expects you to know everything and you're never going to make a mistake. And that's just not true. That's not humans. We're always going to make mistakes. Hopefully we catch it in time, because we do have a very risky endeavor, just like driving. Driving is very risky. So all of these things that we do in life that have heightened risk, we want to catch our mistakes and hopefully error correct before they're catastrophic or they're hurtful or something. But to not acknowledge that you're not going to learn or that you're not going to make mistakes is detrimental to progress in general. And so it's keeping that open mind, I think, is really important. So I've tried to not just believe that, but also impart that to other people, of that it's okay to not be perfect. You can't be perfect, but the goal is to be better and to learn and that's one of the big reasons I decided to apply for the AMGA instructor team, was to that I could continue to grow and learn. And every program I have the opportunity to learn from 8, 9, 10 other people. It's pretty amazing. And I'm in different terrain all the time. And then I'm giving back to the community that I value, and hopefully imparting words of wisdom like Tom did for me, or other people that I learned from that I really enjoyed working with in the AMJ, that's giving back to one another is very important. So,
nice.
And then local folks that I've mentored, they've become good friends of mine. And I think that's a really lovely process.
Nice. Yeah, you mentioned that in this profession, we might have the pressure of like, we need to know everything and then we can't make mistakes. And obviously that's what I think that's impossible. And I actually don't feel that way because obviously nobody can know everything.
Yeah.
And people make mistakes and how we learn. But definitely sometimes I would have performance anxiety.
Yeah.
Do you sometimes have those too? Just like, oh, right now I'm in front of my client, I'm supposed to perform in a certain standard stuff.
Yes. I think that especially if someone's standing right there and saying to your clients, oh, you're with Lindsay. Well, she's, they put you on this pedestal that you're thinking, that's not true. It's interesting, I think. And I've had this conversation with male guides as to what they feel pressure with. And I recently had a conversation that a male guide had said, I feel the pressure of mediocrity, that I'm somewhere in the mix. I'm not this amazing climber. I'm just like the regular male guide. And I said, it's funny because I think for me with women, I don't know how it's been for you, but you're either having to constantly prove yourself, that people will take you, people will assume that you can't climb, you don't really know anything. Or it's the opposite. People put you on this pedestal that you're thinking, okay, wait, no, I don't just send 513. What is this like? Hold on a second, back up. So the bar is either so low or it's so high, and it's just, you wonder, how did we get to that place? And I find that really interesting that, some of my male guide friends have said, I feel that I'm just part of the mix, that I can't ever stand out because I'm just one of lots of white male guides, and I just reside in this place of mediocrity. And I thought, no, that's just as difficult as where I reside, and either on this pedestal or having to continually prove myself. And it's interesting. It's an interesting conversation. Yeah.
It is interesting. I would never, I don't think that for them, but I guess they have their anxiety too.
Sure. Yeah, we all do. Of how do I prove myself, or how do I not feel this pressure? Because if someone says either of those, either say that, do you know what you're doing? Why am I out with this little lady how are you going to short rope me up this mountain? How are you going to keep us stable? You're like, that's not exactly how this is going to work. Okay. So it's either that, or it's this, someone saying, oh, Lindsay's the best ice climber I've ever seen. And I thought, okay, well, that's not even true. Like, let's back up a second. So that kind of, yeah,
right.
it does. You can't not feel that pressure. So, yeah.
And then do you have any strategy of coping that pressure?
Honestly, I'm pretty good at kind of just letting it go, because I think I started off much of my career of people thinking that I didn't know what I was doing. And so I could just kind of just do my thing. And then by the end of the trip, I had won them over, because I was just doing what I was supposed to do. And I didn't have to try to dismantle that idea that they had. It just naturally happened.
Right.
And then with the ones that, when people say that I'm way more than I am, that's the same kind of thing. It doesn't really matter. It's just like, well, I'm just going to climb and do this thing. And then you'll see that I'm not Alex Honnold or whoever you have in your mind as being this, ridiculous, like level that you can't attain, because it's just not true. You just are who you are. So I guess at the end of the day, I just think, well, okay, that's not me. I know who I am.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we can't just care too much about what other people think. We don't really have that much time and care about other people think anyway.
Right. Yeah, that's the other thing is if you're out working, you're focused on your clients anyway. So it doesn't it doesn't matter.
That's right. Yeah, just focus on who we are and what we are doing. So
exactly.
Cool. Yeah. Oh, it's so nice talking with you. Anything that I didn't mention that you have like desire to talk about?
Oh no, I think this is great. But okay. I do think my offer does stand. Perchance you'd ever like to come up and see Bozeman and try out ice climbing here.